YouTube and welcome back to Carrie's Bariatric Gardening. Today is a very special day on the channel because I am finally revisiting Dis the Diet 2.0 COVID Regain Edition. So glad to see everybody who's come back to the channel. Nice to see some new people on the channel. And if you can think of anybody who would appreciate this channel, I would sure love the boost with a share. Thanks so much. The original video for Dis the Diet was done back in the summer of 2017. Way before coronavirus would probably be imagined as a reality for any of us to deal with. I know many people who've had surgery during this time, and I can't even imagine what kind of a challenge that is. Because if weight loss surgery is a challenge on a regular day, then during pandemic lockdown, it's another level. Everybody's been dealing with so much stress in their lives. Changes to routines, changes to work, changes to finances, financial situations, family stress, family loss. There's a lot going on, guys. The issues with kids in school and work and remote work and being home and being in front of the fridge for the past year. And I think that COVID has affected a lot of this community in a lot of different ways. Some of us might be dealing with maintenance. Some of us might be dealing with losing, regain again. Like me. Or some of us just want some tips on healthy eating and healthy lifestyle and ways to be successful post weight loss surgery for the long term, because that really is what we did this all for, long-term success. So before I get into the video, I want to tell you guys a little bit about myself. If you've explored my channel a bit, you know I've been around here for quite a while. I've been a contributor on YouTube for over 10 years now. I feel the need is greater than ever to really educate bariatric patients about food and the food system and ways to make things better. The focus on gardening is because I think it is a positive way to react to a food system that has failed us, and at the same time contribute to our own personal well-being of our body, mind, and soul, our communities, our kids and families. But first, who am I? So my name is Carrie. I had weight loss surgery back in 2009, a mini gastric bypass. I was over 300 pounds at the time. There was obesity in my family, but when I was younger, I wasn't super large. I was overweight. When I hit university, I started to gain weight significantly, and part of that was becoming reintegrated back into the North American food system after having grown up overseas in Italy. That stark change to both diet and lifestyle was detrimental to my health, and as a result, after all the years and years and years of yo-yo dieting and self-blame and eating the wrong foods to help get me there, like diet foods that only cause digestive distress, I decided on weight loss surgery back in 2009 after a significant health scare. I had many complications. My road was not easy. I had to have a revision due to an improper surgery, and then after some other health complications that were contributing to anemia, I had a regain of over 100 pounds. When I was first trying to deal with that regain, I went back to the regular diet tactics that we all grew up with. That was my first instinct. It only made things worse. After that, I decided, okay, let me study this and try and see if I can figure out, because at that point, I was back at 250 pounds and I was facing the same health issues that caused me to have surgery to begin with. So I knew I had to find a solution to get healthy, whether it meant losing weight or not. Well, if obesity is in my genetics, let me at least stack the deck in my favor. Figure out what really the best foods are to eat. After analyzing the food system and human genetics, I made some changes. It wasn't for weight loss at first, it was just for general health. That's why I kept trying to improve on it and get better. When I did that, the weight started coming off naturally. It was life-changing when that happened, because I finally realized I didn't ever have to diet again. And there is a real true freedom in that. in getting out of the self-blame, getting out of the medical system blaming us, getting out of our friends and family blaming us for being fat, like it's something that we chose. When I started losing the weight naturally with the dietary changes, it was also because I was growing my own food. The type of nutrition that my body was receiving was finally adequate, and my hunger just went dropped down, even before I was limiting carbs. And I only did that because I wanted to limit processed foods. I was still eating things like sweet potatoes. That's why I always said I was never doing keto when I was doing that. I was doing my own thing. It was focused on produce and protein, and so it may have appeared like keto to some people, but it wasn't really keto. If you want more information on this, please follow my channel, subscribe to the channel, and press the notification buttons, because I don't always post consistently, so it's maybe a good thing to be advised. I appreciate all your subscribes and your likes and shares of my content. Thank you. The focus of my channel is on giving you guys strategies basically on how to buck the food system. The food system is what made us obese. If any of you guys follow Erin at My Level 10 Life, she is very often quoting now the fact that over 80% of the foods that we have in the grocery store today didn't exist 100 years ago, and neither did our rates of obesity. As we're seeing these being pushed on other countries, we're seeing their rates of obesity skyrocket. Let's buck the food system together and let's get healthy. Grow younger instead of older. We all have a chance to do that. I am a big advocate of blue zone diet. Places in the world where people live the longest. It's the places that have the highest rates of centenarians, so people who are 100 years or older. And they have amazing, amazing diets. And they're all over the world, and they are all different types of diets. So there is an excellent way for you to eat that you are just waiting to discover, that is going to both satisfy you and get you health. Let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about why we have regain. It happens to almost everyone. There's a chance for regain. My body is going to grab onto it, and I'm going to gain weight. And in this past year with COVID, I put on 30 pounds. That being said, I was dealing with my old nemesis again, anemia. You've got anemia, you got to get on top of that, because hey, getting your iron is one thing, getting your infusions is one thing. Having to deal with regain because you're hungry all the time because you're anemic is taking it to a whole other level. Make sure you get your nutrition and your vitamins in as directed by your physicians and surgeons. Pay attention to those numbers on your blood work. Stay on top of your blood work, because what it can trickle down into is regain. Things can change over time. The issues that you might have in the beginning, in your first year of surgery, may change over time. You may end up having reactive hypoglycemia like 4 years down the road. You might become sort of intolerant or not like meat anymore. That's very often typical, because meat can be very hard on our pouches and our surgeries, you know, post-surgically, and so it's not always really the best for our digestion, and we don't feel great always after we eat it. How food reacts in our bodies changes over time, and that might lead us to eat things that maybe are comforting, and sometimes those are not always the best things. So not understanding food in the food system is another thing. You know, companies pay people who've been educated like me about the food system to design products so that the label satisfies what you're looking for. And so you'll buy it without any sense of ethical devotion to how it might actually act when you eat it. Example of this is maltodextrin in foods. You will not find it reflected in the sugar content of the food, but when you eat it, metabolically, it's like it turns to sugar in your body. And so it will cause the same glycemic reactions as sugar. So you can get dumping from maltodextrin, even though on the label it says that there's no sugar in the product. So not understanding food can also lead to issues down the road in terms of regain. With chronic dieting and the lifestyle of chronic dieting, you know, we often call it a yo-yo, and that is because we diet hard, we restrict, and then we get to goal, and then what? We go back to eating all those old foods and regain all that weight, right? and we're back in the same place again. And so then we have to climb the hill again with starving ourselves. And each time we do it, we're changing the distribution of muscle and fat in the body and making ourselves unhealthier and healthier and healthier, and leading to more and more metabolic damage. So we have to stop that kind of mentality. That is literally what makes us become obese, is dieting. Other things that can cause regain are illness and environmental changes. So if you have a change to routines, if you've gone from a very active job to a very sedentary one, you will have to re-examine your diet, because otherwise that change in caloric requirements is going to mean that you're holding on to more calories of the same of what you're eating, and that spells regain. So with COVID, like I said before, there have been so many stress issues, so many environmental issues, you know, illness issues, access to healthcare, access to support. Everything has changed this past year, and so many of us are dealing with regain right now. So no self-blame here, guys. No self-blame. Like, just get rid of that. Like, there's no reason for it. The only thing self-blame is doing is blocking you from your goals because you're focused on negative stuff, and keeping you from being happy with yourself regardless of what your size is. And that's a big one. Size and happiness have nothing to do with each other, okay? All these negative stereotypes that really have nothing to do with reality and have been imposed upon us, we don't have to live that way, okay? Weight has nothing to do with self-worth. You are worthy of love at any size, at any health. You know, any you that you are worthy of all the good things. Take off the cloak of guilt. It's not useful. Let's get to useful, okay? We all want to diss the diet. Like, diets suck, guys. Really, they suck. When you think, oh, I gotta go on a diet, and oh God, no, how soon can you be off of it, and what's your next meal gonna be when you're finally there, right? Understanding the acronym, we don't want to be dieting anymore. Dis that diet, D-I-S. So, what does it stand for? D is for delicious. When you think of food, you should be thinking about delicious. So D is for delicious. I is for intuitive. I have always believed that in order for changes to be real, you don't have to have any special tool. You can do it all on your own. You have to understand things in order to truly feel and interact with something. Education around food, around nutrition, around our bodies, understanding what we've thought of as food maybe in new ways is super important, because you have to be intuitive with it. It shouldn't be so complicated that you'll have to check back to something. You see it, you understand it. That's what we're, you know, aiming for here. S is for simple. It's really important to keep things simple because our lives are complicated enough. And intuitive and simple are sort of closely related. Really what it boils down to is produce and protein in the diet. Those are the important focuses, and if you cover those things, you're going to get there. That is how humans, the human animal, is meant to eat. Real food all the time, at every meal. Real beverages as well, guys. You don't just stick to real food and then eat plastic beverages. So, like, it's everything. It's everything. And honestly, there's so much process that has permeated our lives that it's hard to get away from all of it. But understanding what you're looking at when you see the combination of the label, the ingredients, and the nutritional information, understanding that is going to let you gauge if that's a food for you or not. And if it's a food for you, how often a food it is for you, because all of those things sort of tie into it. All of that together makes it sustainable, right? When it's delicious, it's intuitive, and it's simple, it's not something that's hard to get to. The mindfulness piece is the hardest part. Getting to mindfulness is going to take you some time. Don't expect it to happen overnight. It takes doing the wrong thing in order to learn. We gotta sometimes make a mistake, pay for it, right? Pay for it, and then realize what we need to do to change things so that they can be functional. All right, guys, let's get into the real thick of this three-letter acronym. Delicious. So, what is delicious? I think a lot of times when we're used to processed food diets, we think that delicious means junk food, means foods that are highly flavored, may contain a lot of salt and MSG, fat and sugar. In the American diet, we think of these foods as delicious because that's how they are advertised to us. We get tons of ads all the time trying to convince us of what's delicious. So your new delicious is gonna look different than your old delicious. So keep that in mind. You want to have a really exploratory and creative attitude towards food. Try new things, new food ways, new ways of cooking. And when I say food ways, I mean like not just different cuisines, but you know, it could be growing your own food. It could be going to the farmer's market if you can't grow your own food. You know, it could be becoming friends with somebody who does and maybe giving them some help in their garden so that you can share and get some of that great food back. All of these things are different food ways. What we want is a diverse diet. People say, oh, I don't like the taste of vegetables. Well, you know what? Vegetables are, when you go to culinary school, and you learn about aromatic vegetables. They are the base of almost every sauce in every world cuisine. The base of the sauce isn't like meat and starches. The base of the sauce is vegetables and aromatics. So herbs, which are extremely amazing source of so many different nutrients, and a lot of different vegetables. So like mirepoix, which is the base of like almost like so many things in cooking, is onions, carrots, and celery. If you've never made a mirepoix before, like try making one and you'll see how you can use that as a base sauces. You can add it to things like burgers and meatloaves or things like that in order to increase your vegetable content in your diet. And it will also increase the flavor components, guys. So don't worry about like, oh, I'm worried about vegetables. You may have never had them made in ways that were really tasty before. It's worthwhile to take a deep dive down that, you know, culinary rabbit hole and learn a few skills of basic cooking in order to get yourself to a place where you can make really, really tasty food at home. That is an investment in yourself. You know, if you're trying to get kids to eat vegetables and they're used to very processed foods, it's the same deal. Learning culinary principles will help you integrate more foods into your diet in a way that is healthy, sustainable, and that you'll want to repeat. Delicious is also how food combinations make things taste good. When we have a lot of different things, your brain is getting so many different signals. There are different aromatics and like textures. It changes the experience of eating food. And it's something that you might have to get yourself used to. Like I often say, don't feel like you have to swallow a whole elephant all at once. You don't have to learn everything the first time. Watch this video and sit down to your next meal. You're not going to get there yet. It's a process, and it's a process of continuous improvement. So you start small changes, and then you just keep on adding to that as those things become incorporated and you see what works and what doesn't. That way it takes a little bit of the pressure off that you don't have to get it all at once. There's so much to learn about food. I'm still learning, and I will always be willing to learn. So I is for intuitive. And like I said, mindfulness is the most important key. You have to look at what you're doing. We run through life, we're distracted by so many things. When you're at the store, you know what happens if you go there hungry. You want to get everything in the store. You're thinking about, you're stressed. You're thinking about what's going to happen when you get home. All the things that you have to do. How much of that time are you actually focused on the food that you're buying? Sometimes going through the grocery store is a little bit like after a long day driving home from work. After all that traffic, you get home and you're like, oh my God, I totally zoned out there. How did I even get home safely? The same thing happens in the grocery store. So to get to that mindfulness around food, it's gonna take a while. I always used to do it at the checkout counter. I would take a picture of my grocery order, and that would be my mindfulness moment. That snapshot is like, oh, did I make good choices here? It's a process, because the fact is, if you bring it home, you're gonna eat it. Even if it's not for you. We've all been there. Mindfulness in what you're actually bringing into the home, because what you bring into the home is your food environment. That's what's around you, and that's what you're gonna eat. Grocery stores have had a century to plan out their marketing in order to get you. Right? That's why essentials are at the back, like milk and eggs. The healthy stuff is sort of around the sides. And all the stuff in the middle, which is the fastest way to get there, that is the cheap stuff that is high value to the producers. And think of how many companies own all of those boxes in the middle aisle. There's only a few. There's only a few companies that own all of those different brands, and it is their prerogative to get you to buy those products. They have 1,000 chances between the door, the milk, and the checkout counter. And if you're not paying attention to that, that stuff is going to end up in your cart. That cheap food is going to become part of your body, and it's going to turn into outcomes. Mindfulness is important, and also understanding how grocery stores market to you, how food companies market to you. Level of manipulation that I think that we're so used to that we barely even see it anymore. And it's time to open our eyes to it because it affects our decision making on a daily basis. Understanding how food works in the body is also part of intuitive eating. When you eat certain types of foods, you will tend to find that you want more of those foods. So although you might purchase it for a treat, it might be really difficult to say no the next time. And that's not necessarily because of a permissive attitude, but it's because of the way that it affects your actual metabolism. And so if you are a person whose genetic has a tough time with dealing with surges in insulin in the body, you will be prone to metabolic syndrome. With that, your brain speaks to your gut, and your gut speaks to your brain. That interacts with the world, and certain things end up in your shopping cart and in your body. Understanding the draw of certain types of really addictively formulated foods is going to help you avoid them and better deal with how to treat yourself well when you do want to treat. Get the right treat that won't have you reaching for the same thing like you're a crack addict. Literally in the brain, it works the same exact way. Because people are different on a genetic level, this will be slightly different for everyone. The tough part here is that you're going to have to learn it for yourself. What's a trigger point and what's not? Different for everyone. Being mindful about that is going to help you jump to intuition in decision making instead of all of these other things that are competing for your focus. All right. S, simple. Simplicity is key. You have to understand something about food. Real food is ingredients, doesn't have ingredients. An eggplant doesn't have an ingredients list. I'm not saying everything that you buy has to be a whole food. Integrating more whole foods into the diet through produce choices and protein and having that as the focus, that is key to doing simple and healthy. Understanding the labels is important in keeping it simple because, you know, like they try to trick us with the nutritional information label. That's all just plopped into a computer program that like one company owns, and it doesn't really take into account how things actually act in the body. Keep that in mind. It's not entirely as useful as you might think it is. What is more useful actually is looking at the ingredients list. When you're buying foods that have different ingredients in them, look at the ingredients list, not the nutritional label. The nutritional label is actually trying to trick you to buy the food. It's part of the marketing. The ingredients they have to disclose. And if you don't know what the ingredients is, you just pop onto the internet, you put the name in, just copy and paste it, put the name in and say food additive, what does it do? You'll get a lot of information. Understanding what you're eating is extremely important. There are something like 50 different names for sugar. And honestly, some things that act like sugar in the body are not listed on the label, but you will see them on the ingredients list. And if you know what to look out for, if you know that that's your trigger point, you can't have those foods. It's like a food allergy. For me, maltodextrin is like that. I can't go near the stuff. It makes me sick every time I eat. Simplicity is also cooking food. We think of recipes as very complicated, that it takes a long time. So it's like, oh, let's just order in. We're tired, we're exhausted. It actually takes less time to throw together something on the stove than to order in and have it delivered. And it's healthier and cheaper. It's better for you. It's not going to make you sick. Dinner doesn't take me more than 20 minutes to make. Keeping certain things on hand that help you with convenience, or like processing things a certain way when you buy them from the farmer's market so that you can freeze them and have them available to throw into your recipes, is extremely, extremely useful strategies on how to get to simple and beautiful eating in non-stressful ways, because you know what, nobody needs more stress. So learning how to cook simple is very important. I grew up in Italy and the food there is extremely simple, but it is amazingly good. And it's amazingly good because of the ingredients, but also because the techniques that they use in cooking focus on the deliciousness of the ingredients, right? That makes beautiful food simple. And you can do the same at home. Eating food as well, learning intuition in portion portioning. We're used to certain size portions. We're told to have certain size portions. Some people stick to it, some people don't. Things change over time. When the capacity of what you can eat increases, you're gonna have to add those vegetables in, right? Because otherwise, if you're used to eating everything like carbs, protein, veg, and you go from this amount where you really need to focus on, you know, your protein and your vitamins and all that, and then you can have like this amount, certain ingredients, when they're in there together, causes weight gain. In order to have fat in your body, carbohydrate and a fat, that combination is what puts it into your fat cell. Metering the amount of those foods available in your gut as your digestion goes on helps you regulate the absorption of those foods, how much your body stores depending on what your activity level is, you know, how much you can eat. If things change, you're going to have to look at that and change it. And having strategies in place to help you incorporate more veggies into your diet in order to boost your nutrition and keep you satisfied, you know, when you can eat more is really important, really amazing functional skill for success long term. So along with that is simple menu design, produce and protein. I would say in your first year, focus on protein and produce. And then after that, once your body adjusts and you've lost the weight, you have to flip it and focus on produce first and then protein. You don't have to deal with all the healing that you're doing immediately following surgery. And when so many things change when you lose all of that weight, your body shifts so much that like there's so much going on. You need that extra protein the first year. So please stick to that. After that, when things change and some of your absorption comes back and you're absorbing more of that, you need to switch the ratio to menu plan. You'll be able to look at, okay, well, this is what I have, this is what I need, and you'll know how to get there. So along with that is simple maintenance, and that carbohydrate and fat combination is the lever. That's the lever for your weight loss. You know, you can, for most people, there are special exceptions. Like I said, everybody is a little bit different genetically. There are also other conditions that change the way things happen metabolically in the body. But for most people, that is the lever. As things change, as our bodies change, as our life situation changes, as our age changes. I just hit menopause, you know, and I've always heard of women gaining weight when they hit menopause. You know, I have to be mindful of that too. And if I can buck that trend, then I know I'm doing the right things for my body. Age changes things. Stress level changes things. Even the amount of sleep that you get will change how foods react in your body metabolically. The same food can make you gain weight if you're stressed out and not sleeping than if you're happy. I think most people don't consider that. Simple maintenance is using the lever, understanding food, and modulating your diet depending on where you're at with your metabolism. In conclusion, after all of that, the best thing to take away from this is that the system failed us and it's time to try something new. The commercial food system, along with the combination of the medical system and the diet industry, failed us. And so to go back to those tactics to deal with bariatric regain makes absolutely no sense, at least to me. And if you think so too, subscribe to the channel. We will be learning how to integrate these principles into our lifestyle together here at Carrie's Bariatric Gardening. Let's make a new system and let's get healthy together. I hope you guys are all doing great. If you have any questions or concerns, or if I need to clarify anything for you, please write in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel. I'm doing another garden tour soon because just from the last one I did, things have changed so much. All the colored vegetables are starting to come. Head on over to the Facebook group at Carrie's Bariatric Gardening in order to see what I had for breakfast today. It was delicious. All right, guys. Till next time. Bye.